afternoon. Beautiful Sunday, or rather beautiful sunny day from Bangkok, Thailand. Our distinguished plenary speakers, starting with Shinta and from Indonesia, and Aloysius from Singapore, and Kunbi, I call her Miss Pani, from Thailand, Samrat from Cambodia. Ladies and gentlemen, Hong Sin is my name, and one of the founding member of ASEAN CIO Association, responsible for global relationship alliances, events, and activities. So just quickly run through some logistics. Generally all your voices or photographs or pictures will be captured. And of course, we also wanted to emphasize that with PDPA, information that we collected, it is just kept within ASEAN CIO. So very importantly is also that should you do not wish to receive any email or newsletters from us, you can let us know and we can delete your contact permanently. Secondly, of course, the session allows Q&A, and you can post your question or you can come online. For the very first time listeners, I would like to give you a very quick brief on ASEAN CIO Association. We're a non-profit organization, started off with a group of passionate CIOs, started out in Thailand since 2010, led by our president, Kun Chaitalan Atipet. And clearly, we have very clear intention to share our experience and support CIOs across ASEAN in various subjects such as technology and transformation. And all personnel in ASEAN CIO Association are volunteers, yet we have formed very strong alliances across the region. The whole entire intention is truly to actually drive ASEAN initiatives to support the whole ASEAN digital master plan. So our flagship annual event has been planned in Vietnam. Time being, the schedule is still set forth in September. And this is an annual event where we actually comes together and using this one activity for regular information exchange, as well as bridging towards digital and information divide. As well, other than the September event, another event that was being postponed is the Hydro Informatics Forum, which is currently tentatively set in October. This is in fact our third last live chat session as we evolve to work out a new model of engagement in following up to the past 11 live chats since we started when COVID starts to have all the lockdown. So this whole weekly meet online has given us major input on how much the industry needed to see action than just talk. So our focus will continue for ASEAN to explore the whole conversation on digital development and transformation. Live chat channel, we have business consulting, coaching, cybersecurity, city urbanization, digital transformation, digital water, digital fund, that's today's hot topic, green and sustainability, women and youth. Women's subject was discussed last week with overwhelming response, where after the talk, there were a lot of information that came in for us to work on. So ASEAN CIO, ASEAN Digital Fund Live Chat 12, basically we're talking about introducing this conversation to explore and establish digital fund, a unique way of funding digital people, society, economy. Funding is always key to digital transformation and empowerment. So the whole conversation in terms of, like, for some of you who happen to read the synopsis, we emphasize a lot about stimulating the digital transformation and encourages an overall approach to help support ASEAN development from youth to women, from startup to business, from creation to innovation to globalization. So raising funds has always been a challenge in many sectors. Many governments has to do their dues in justifying what they each ask for. So the very key conversation here would be, how ASEAN CIO is looking at forming this whole digital fund and what could be possible to support ASEAN development. And of course, the very, very key conversation is that how do one offer the level of transparency and provide accountability to funding stakeholders. Now, let me bring on our plenary speakers with their own unique experience in the subject of funding. In various ways, each has contributed respectively to their country and even supported the region or even globally. So from Cambodia, may I invite Mr. Samrat. He's the managing director at Cambodia in Club. I actually met him in 2014 when I ran my very first crowdfunding Asia event in Singapore. And subsequently, I met him up in Phnom Penh to explore collaboration. Today, he is a very successful person. He championed the organization and has helped SME in Cambodia to secure funding without collaterals. Samrat, maybe you'd like to come online, to introduce yourself.
Yeah, thank you so much, Hong Sin. We have met a long time ago, and so our communication is keep going on. And today, thank you so much for inviting me to join the panel in the Digital Fund live chat. Yes, we are not yet the champion. We are on the way of helping SME to raising fund from the investor and try to manage the fund of investor and generate profit for them as well. So I can say now CIC become the community-based financing service provider that we provide the alternative and innovative financing solution for startup and SME. And we also have a fund management, a licensed fund management company in Cambodia. We just granted as a first fund management license in Cambodia that we can manage the investor fund, we can pool the fund and manage the fund to invest into a startup and SME. So a licensed fund management is one of a subsidiary. So that's why we become the community-based financing company. Why I say that? Because alongside with fund management company, we do have association we call a Cambodia Investor Club Association, that we are recruiting more member, entrepreneur and investor to join us. So in our platform, we do have more than 400 SME with a different industry that they join us to grow together with our platform. Yeah, we do both. As you mentioned, we provide private debt and also equity to SME. We just expand a little bit more to the startup, but we didn't invest into startup yet. So we work much with the SME to support them to grow their business. I think, yeah, that's from Cambodia. And then maybe if you have any other question, you can raise after that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Samrat, for the introduction. And it is really nice to see how CIC has actually evolved since the day we met. And that was like, what, 6 years ago, right? And yes. Interestingly, is also that you mentioned about open to people to join the club. Does that restrict to only Cambodians or anybody?
anybody, and then we have two programs for anybody to join, but mostly foreigner can join as the investor, not the entrepreneur. In fact, we recruit more entrepreneur, like local entrepreneur, through the BIO program. It's the Business Accelerator program under the CIC Association. And we also established a Cambodian Angel Investor Network. That one is a link to Asian Angel Net Alliance as well. We call it AAA. We are one of the country member of Asian Angel Alliance. So foreigner can also join us as the investor, because currently we do not invest in the foreign business yet. So we invest in the local entrepreneur. But a foreign investor can join us as the investor, because CIC itself is the investment platform that we provide the service for both investor and also entrepreneur.
Okay, interesting. Thank you so much. Okay, let me invite the next plenary speaker from Indonesia. May I invite Ms. Shinta Witoyo Danuwadoyo, also known as Shinta, of course, Bubu. And she is an avid Indonesian businesswoman. She is basically a digital activist, angel investor, and also founder of Nusantara Venture and bubu.com. And she just told me just minutes ago, she's very interested in esports. She was introduced to me by former Minister of ICT, Mr. Rudiantara. And when I was searching for a relevant speaker for this vital topic. So on reading, watching, and also learning about her passion, she is definitely another great ASEAN digital women who have done, in fact, great work in Indonesia. So Shinta, the screen is yours.
Thank you so much, Hong Sin, for the invitation to speak, and good afternoon, everybody. So I'm Shinta. I've been in the tech industry for 24 years now. So started in '96, very early days, my first startup company, which is now bubu.com. But basically, I've been doing almost everything that there's to do in the tech industry, I guess. I started an early marketplace in 2009, which is with Telkom Indonesia, and it actually now invested by eBay. And also I was a venture capitalist, an early player in venture capital in 2010 with the Nusantara Ventures. But now I'm mostly doing my own investments. So I'm an angel investor. I help startups. I mentor startups, and we also started a platform called Startup Indonesia, which is a platform that helps to connect the startup ecosystem in Indonesia from the venture capitals, mentors, and we help them connect to the startups itself. And so actually, the Startup Indonesia platform, it's been running for like almost 6 months now, and it has about 400 startups, but they're like tech startups because we are only concentrating on the tech-based startup, and we had like about 800 founders listed as well, and 6,000 user database. And so what we've done during this COVID time, we've been helping the startups to connect the venture capitals with we call it a speed dating session. And what we do is we curate startups and we present it to a number of venture capital, since they cannot meet startup face-to-face now with the situation. So this is how we do it with the platform. And so I've been totally like helping definitely in the investment side from also helping startup even starting their own first company or creating a deck before presenting to the investors, just because, you know, I've been in the industry for so long. So that's actually the mission and vision right now, especially for Startup Indonesia. Is we see how Indonesia is such a huge country with 17,000 islands. So we want to have equal access for everybody in Indonesia to get the same access, the same access for anyone else. You know, not only people in the capital city like Jakarta to get access to venture capitals, investors, or mentors. So we want to help bring that equal access to everybody in Indonesia. And I think these days, most of my time, I'm still running my company bubu.com, which is a digital agency, but we turn into a venture builders. That's why we started with another venture called Bubu Gaming, which is we're running things on esports because, you know, esports is hot right now, especially during COVID. And I started of course, the Startup Indonesia platform. And then we have also another venture called LabX, which is a collaborative agency. So we help local brands, it's mostly local fashion brands in Indonesia, to collaborate with other bigger brands. It could be locally or even internationally. So that's a bit about what I've been doing, and a bit about you know, how the scene of the digital scene in Indonesia. We have, of course, we're famous with our 5 unicorns in ASEAN. So we're very proud of that, and we're hoping that we can collaborate with other countries in ASEAN as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Shinta. Thank you. And really, the key takeaway for me: equal access to funding. I think this is extremely powerful. For, you know, the in-country to think about, you know, funding accessibility. And of course, the very key word that you've been emphasizing is also about collaboration. And possibly with your platform, you know, you can open up to maybe, who knows, right? The next new unicorn of the world, you know, could come from this group of startups that you are working on.
Definitely. Yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's really, really exciting. And right now, from Singapore, I would like to invite Aloysius Cheng, CISO, CSCIS. I let him tell you what it means. He's the Executive Vice President, Asia Pacific. And speaking of Aloysius, he's not just a geek on the street in his younger days. He is really someone that, you know, I like to say, you know, because he's in the cybersecurity space, he don't do the norms. And my first encounter with him was, I believe, is as far back as 2003, where he founded SIG2, SIG2, and I mean, we happened to be, you know, working in terms of supporting his idea of this whole setup for HoneyNet, honeyports in Singapore. He's now a renowned, successful person in the region, holding senior corporate executive function with very extensive experience running global businesses. So Aloysius, the screen is yours.
Right. Good afternoon, Kun Chacharan, Hong Sein, my fellow esteemed panelists, and everyone in this live chat. I'm honored to be invited to join this live chat, and I really like to be able to mingle with everyone in this live chat to share experiences of how we can do digital fund raising and management. So Hong Sein pretty much have introduced myself as a cybersecurity geek, and I have been doing cybersecurity for all my life. And most recently, I have founded an organization called Cloud Security Alliance, which was the global de facto voice for cloud computing security. And because of my involvement in Cloud Security Alliance, or CSA, what I have done was to create an ecosystem for cloud computing companies to flourish, and that was since 2008, especially a very sensitive time where US just have a new president in place, and the president's new White House CIO invited us, who at that time I was a member of the US White House Cybersecurity Roundtable, and we were all invited to start the CSA to see how we can leapfrog the cyber economy at that time into the next era, and we sort of introduced cloud computing to the world. So because of the ecosystem I built in CSA, we managed to do a lot of good business in Singapore, where the Economic Development Board has brought CSA to relocate their global headquarters in Singapore, and the EDB was introduced on the average 20 to 40 top cloud computing companies in the world, whether they are startups or established companies, to set up their global headquarters or regional headquarters in Singapore. And we were doing that ever since then. But ever since we was incorporated in Singapore for the next 3 years. And with that, we managed to establish Singapore as the top cyber and cloud hub in the world. So with the experience of ecosystem building, I was subsequently also invited to mentor various cybersecurity funds, as well as myself starting a few startups along the way. After I decided that, you know, it's time to hone on my entrepreneurship, I left the CSA and then started a few startups and went through the whole fundraising cycle myself. So I can appreciate the problem, I can appreciate the difficulties, and therefore I can appreciate the value that ACIOA Digital Fund can bring to the table to everyone with equal opportunity. And I think that is something that will be most fantastic to watch. So I'm here bring my experience from both the buy side and the sell side in small and medium enterprise or large companies that I'm served in the past, from the Vodafone Global Enterprise of the world to the PwC Enterprise of the world. Okay, these are some of the experience that I hope that I will be able to share on this live chat. With that, thank you very much, Hong Seng.
Thank you, Aloysius. Very interesting. I hear the word buy and sell. Okay, so this is going to be very interesting conversation. I can't wait to bring on my next plenary speaker. For, you know, she has lots of experience. From Thailand, I'd like to invite Ms. Pani Thavakan Thaichanaon. Young and energetic, grounded very clearly on her mission. She is the president of a VC fund, and she had a top-notch ERP entity invested by ADB, IFC, and also a top investment banker from Thailand. Of course, she told me she came a long way, and you know, she sees that ASEAN Digital Fund is very serving for the ASEAN development. And she is currently also the president for KIU Technology, Thailand Limited, RSI Venture, and she runs also the president for the Institute of Management Consultant of Thailand. So Kun B, the screen is yours. Please introduce yourself.
สวัสดีค่ะ Greeting from Thailand ค่ะ Actually, I'm a business strategist and I do the investment in venture capital. Actually, I didn't do fund management because normally it's our own fund. We manage other people's fund because when we funding the business by ourselves, it's like it's another kind of challenge. And then, but sometimes we join investment or we do like parallel investor with other VC or other like investor. Like one project that we already invest in last year is about the digital transformation tools for SME. Its name is KIU. Actually, Q is like we can say it's like super ERP because it can work more than ERP, but in the very small price. Because this kind of product is being invested by big VC of the world. So then this kind of fund is like putting in the technology and it's built impact technology for many people. Impact technology is mean like it's not only the technology that built for only profit, but it's concern people and concern planet as well. So this is one of our investment in impact technology. And it's very, it's my pleasure that Kun Hong Sin invited me to share the experience of doing the investment in the term of digital literacy. Thank you, Ka.
You know, I'm very humbled by many of you who have, you know, a good brief of what experience actually dealing with a lot of, whether if you're investing, whether you're managing a fund, whether you own your own funds, or whether you're in the game of buy and sell, and or even to the extent of like mentoring startups or even like structuring businesses. So in the conversation of ASEAN CIO, when we were thinking about ASEAN Digital Fund, was this whole idea was coined by our president, and of course, you know, also our vice president and the councillors were saying that, hey, you know, across ASEAN, we have countries with different needs. We have countries that are very far ahead. They are very advanced. We have countries that are not so, you know, equipped with the latest technology, but everyone is on the game and on the context of a digital economy. Every ASEAN countries is looking at how they can make the country better when they think about, you know, empowering their people. The past many live chats, we covered on the subject about digital prosperity led by State Secretary or Secretary of State of Cambodia, Dr. Kanchametha. And also in that session, we had also the former Minister of ICT Indonesia that talks about, you know, the digital literacy conversation is a must-have. It's no longer conversation. We were also looking at, you know, the different aspects of how countries can get funded, or how the countrymen can actually cross-border and access funding that are from different countries. So for a start, you know, I'm going to open the questions to all my plenary speakers on the context about funding, their experience in funding. And, you know, we probably would like to talk about, you know, starting because for some of you who have already been running some funds, for some of you who have experience in terms of VC, what are the challenges to establish a fund? Or what are the challenges that, you know, people who are setting up a fund are facing? So I'd like to open this conversation maybe for a start, because Aloysius is basically the buy and sell, and he has raised funds and he has seen how funds are being established. So maybe Aloysius, I would like to kickstart with you in terms of, in your experience or in your knowledge, what you have seen as challenges when one is establishing a fund. Aloysius?
Right. Thank you, Hong-Sin, for coming up with this very wonderful question, because that is the kind of question that's on everyone's mind when you are out fundraising. Because the kind of different VCs they speak to, or angel investors speak to, all of them have different spotlights that they like to focus on. If you are very early on in the life cycle of your company, you just have started with a great idea and maybe with a demo that showcase your idea, you probably will be speaking to an angel investor. So for the angel investor, they'll be mostly looking at what is the return on investment in 1 year and in the next 2 to 3 years of the agreement that you're going to have with you, and the kind of interest that you're expected to pay back based on how much they're going to invest in you sometimes can range from 20% to 40%, and that's quite mind-boggling. They are not interested in owning your shares. They are more interested in how much they can get back at the end of the year and at the end of the 3 year that the investment will end, for example. So if you are in that situation whereby you are actually raising funds, it becomes a catch-22 kind of situation whereby you want to raise the fund, but at the same time you need to set aside 20 to 40% to pay back the investor towards the end of the year. So in actual fact, what you are raising is just 60% of your target, and based on this 60%, you are supposed to be able to develop a product such that is good enough for a seed round, which is going to be the next target. You're going to look for seeding so that you can probably use the seed funds to develop your product such that it's a workable product that you could actually get more companies, more user interested to buy your product and move on to the next phase of the funding. So this catch-22, where you are raising funds, but at the same time you need to pay back, and then sometimes they don't, they may not want you to pay back only at the end of the year, but sometimes they're also structuring such that you are paying back on a monthly basis, on a quarterly basis. So that's sort of, it actually get you in a situation whereby you still have funding issue. And then from this funding issue, we go to the next issue that most people will also face is, you are starting a new company, right? A new startup with a new idea. So you probably have to register for a new company. So when you register for a new company, it means that you don't have a track record. So for a lot of people that are looking at investing in you, they'll be looking at things like, hey, what is your track record? How many customers do you have? How much have you put in so far? What's your revenue stream going to be like? What is your burn rate going to be like on a month-by-month basis? So it's hard to answer this question. And if you don't have to answer this question, most of the time, you will not be able to access the funds that you want either. So in a nutshell, at early on in the stage of your startup, you'll be looking at a lot of high-risk investment, and sometimes this high-risk investment will be very difficult to manage the expectation, the want of the people that would want to invest in you, and they'll be asking questions that sometimes it's like, it's a question of whether the chicken or the egg comes first, and that is the kind of dilemma that you have. So most of the time, from what I know in the market, a lot of times, if you are part of some kind of network that offers you access to rich individuals that can be your angel investor, probably this is one of the great way to kick off your funding process. If not, a lot of time it also depends on whether you're just a fresh grad from the universities, and you could also apply for funding from the university to build your prototype, and that will be something that is sustainable for you in the next 2-3 months to get the kind of resources to build your prototype. So that is very early on in the stage of your fund, your startup. When you look for funds, subsequently, when you look at subsequent level, later stage like Series A and B, you're looking at different question set altogether, and then that will be also the time whereby you'll be managing and dealing with the issue of dilution of your share. So that's why a lot of time, by the time that you reach the exit plan, or you reach the exit plan whereby maybe, for example, you are IPOing your company, you'll be maybe just holding 1%, or you'll be left with just 1% of your company, where the rest of the shares are diversified already. So the question right now is, chicken and egg, how much of money that you want, at the same time, how much you want to dilute your fund holding. And once you dilute your fund holding to a certain stage, it becomes unattractive for you to carry on with this project anymore. So these are some of the questions that you and tough decisions you have to make along the way. And knowing that, you know, when you're asking for angel investors, most of the time, by then you should have already exhausted your own money. And that's the reason why you'll be looking for angel investors and subsequently all the other VCs to come in. So sometimes it's not a choice, but it's a choice of maybe earning your first pot of gold from your first company and using the first pot of gold and investing them in subsequent companies. And we are seeing that happening very frequently in the Silicon Valley, where a lot of people that I know of, when they started their first company, it was to fund their second and third and fourth company. And most of the time, this is the case. Back to you, Hansen.
Okay. Oops. Thank you, Aloysius. You throw in all your years of experience in funding. It's interesting. So thank you. Conrad, you know, as you run CIC and you started from scratch, so when you are establishing the whole CIC for, you know, or I'm not sure whether CIC did establish a fund or CIC actually not establish a fund. So did you
Right.
establish a fund for CIC?
So for my Center for Strategic Cyberspace and International Studies, or CSIS in short we call that, it is actually founded in UK back in 2010. And we are a leading cyber-centric think tank, right? So this think tank was started to participate in projects that could be more macro in level, working with other social economic organizations, for example, working with NATO, working with OECD, working with EU in the Horizon 2020 research funding, or working with other think tanks like Chatham House in US, in UK, or even working with organizations like FireEye Alliance. We are a think tank that we sort of becomes a platform to bring experts together to participate in very specialized projects and collaborative initiatives between different entities, and we are the platform for integrating all these things together. So most recently, last year, we are working with the Department of States in US through their entity AIT based in Taiwan, together with MIC in Japan, to kickstart what we call the Indo-Pacific Cybersecurity Alliance, looking at setting up an alternative voice for the Belt and Road Project against the Belt and Road Project of China, to offer cybersecurity project initiatives, as well as co-shared intel, cyber intel, and even being a platform for collaboration and funding. So this is something that the latest project that we're doing, and right now one of the key technical issues that we are trying to solve is on deep tech, things like, for example, IoT, things like, for example, AI and data analytics. So
Aloysius, you also raise funds for these projects, or how do you get your funds?
We don't raise funds for projects. As I think that we raise funds for projects instead. That means that for specific projects, for example, when we set up the headquarters, the APAC headquarters in Taiwan, is funded through the different agencies, funded through Taiwan, is funded through the
By the government.
Government, yes.
Ah,
and then entities like companies like Foxconn, the Acers of the world, they will come in to become project members, and they will fund the projects.
Ah, I see. Okay,
right.
All right. Just hang on, hold your horses, because you have a lot to cover. So hang on. I need to hear from Cambodia, Samrat. You know, when you were setting up CIC, did you set up a fund? And if you do, what are the challenges that you face?
Okay, so at at first we didn't set up a fund, and then we just it kind of a fund, but we at first we don't call it a fund. We just set up like a membership fee or whatever, because we don't want to miss the expectation of the investor. So we just start from the business association, and then just collect the membership fee from them. So it kind of small amount individual that they put the money to CIC. And when we rolling on, we move the membership fee to the fund. So that is another challenge and headache that we have done. Like we issue the fund unit trust that we ask the individual investor to buy our fund unit trust. And then currently we have like just more than 300 individual fund. We didn't manage the institutional fund yet. We manage the individual fund, and managing the individual fund is quite tough and challenging, because individual have a different expectation. So when come up with the expectation, we have planned to manage the expectation. We didn't promise any return to the investor. We just said to them that, okay, that is a membership fee. That is the money that we will use to invest into the business. If we fail in our investment, you also will lose your money. And the challenge is there because we are new. The trust and credibility experience is not there. So at the first 3 years, I can say that it was a really tough time. It was really a headache, because no one believed that we can stay still today. And now they took their eye into CIC. Oh wow, it's a great performance. And they also can get a yearly dividend, and comparing to the investment that they can put to the fixed deposit, it's better because they have dividend and also have the expected capital gain from our fund. And then they start looking into our platform. But for the first 3 years, no one believed that we can do. So we have to build ourselves, to build trust to them that we are transparent. Even we didn't have much money, we engaged the KPMG as the external auditor to provide our audit, to make it transparent to them. And we paid a lot of money to KPMG to provide our audit, to do our audit. And the challenge setting up fund here in Cambodia, now it becoming the market and ecosystem challenge, because ecosystem in Cambodia here is not favorable enough for investor to jump in. So that's why not much institutional investor to come. Why? Because the market of the entrepreneur of the business is small, and also the exit market is quite tough. That's why CIC itself, we don't invest yet to the startup because of the exit issue. I think we have to build an ecosystem that any investor they come in and the startup here in Cambodia, the VC can exit easily when investing into the startup. And another issue is investor knowledge. Well, I can say because the investor here in Cambodia, they prefer investing in real estate rather than business, because real estate they do the comparison. Okay, real estate is safe. Real estate can generate more profit, and why should they invest in the business? They take risk. And what is the reason to invest into the business? And then what is the reason to invest into the fund while I can invest myself? That is another question that we have to answer. So I think all this challenge that we have faced, and last 3 or 4 years, we face another challenge is also the regulation, because the regulation of the fund management is just started last year. So we was happened to be born before the regulation. So that's why it also tough for us that we have to do our work carefully. And now we get the license, and it's time to legalize what we have done in line with the regulation. So now regulation is settled, and then along the way we have built a lot of investor knowledge education to the investor. We create a lot of program that we can provide the knowledge to the investor that, okay, if you invest only in real estate, it's good for yourself, but when the economy is stuck, how can you sell your real estate? So that's why sometimes we have to challenge with the investor as well. So you have to diversify. We educate them to diversify the portfolio, invest to the business, in order invest to the real economy, so the economy will not be stuck or recession or whatever, that they also can easily sell their property as well. Yes, so I can say that the first challenge is ourselves, because we need time to build trust, to build the credibility to the market, and also gain the experience of managing fund. Secondly, is the market itself, because the exit market is not quite easy in Cambodia. I can say that because we are in the same industry with other VC. We have the chit chat, and then the most challenge for them is the exit. They also find a way to connect to us, how they can sell the portfolio to us as well. Thirdly is investor knowledge, as I mentioned, and fourth one is last but not least is about the ecosystem. So the ecosystem here in Cambodia is just started to build. So hopefully in next 4 or 5 years that we have a lot of entrepreneur or startup, they are coming, and also the investor, they are interested into the Cambodia market. But for the investor, I think it's time to come to Cambodia, because the market is just started. So when they invest in next 4 or 5 years, and then they can exit with the great multiple. Yeah, thank you, Hong Sen.
Okay, thank you, Samrat. I love the way you promote Cambodia. Come investors, come and invest in Cambodia. That is a great way to promote Cambodia. SMEs of Cambodia, you got to thank Samrat for doing that. And we have one of the speakers would not be able to join us fully, completely. But Shinta, I will run through with Kunbi first, and then I will come to you with series of query. So,
no problem.
B, in your own version, what do you think could be the challenges when setting up or when establishing a fund? Since you run your own fund, right?
Actually, in Thailand, ecosystem in Thailand is just not the same as the other country, as I know now. Once we set up the fund, because of our partner have quite a high-level network in Thailand, and then we have many international kind of people like startups come to meet us. And at that time, I talk about last 3 years. Last 3 years, we have like many tech startups come to meet us every day. Maybe we have to listen to presentation like 2 times, 2 presents a day. At that time, it talk about cryptocurrency. At that time, it talk about the blockchain technology. So then, all of them are very interesting. But at that time, we have to think about, hey, what should we invest? We have a bunch of funds, and then what kind of technology or what kind of product that we want to invest. At that time, our team, we discussed, and then we find out that we have to invest in what we already know, or what we already have some experience, and what we are really interested in. That time we find out, we come out that our fund should be invest in a kind of business, and should invest in a kind of technology that impact to the business people. So that is the starting point that we build up our own VC fund. Yeah.
Thank you, Bea. Thank you. It's very interesting, especially when you're holding the funds. Generally, people are coming to you for the funds, but in the course of establishing the funding, you probably have a different sets of challenges, right? So we're already starting to receive questions. So Jonathan, just hang on for a little while. Let me get on to Shinta. Shinta, the question going to you, I'm very interested in hearing from you, like, what are the, not the challenges establishing a fund, because you basically runs a VC before you're right now an angel investors, right? So what kind of condition do you actually take interest in investing?
In investing, okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So as an angel investor, for me, I focus on the founders. So basically, at the end of the day, I'm investing on the people itself, on the founders, because the way I see it, I've been an entrepreneur myself for 24 years now. So I want to invest. First, probably I look at the product, of course, and then I would ask to meet with the founders, and at the end of the day, I would have to spend a couple of days talking to them, meeting with them, and actually that's when that's my judgment whether I want to invest or not is based on the founders, because I think being a founders, they have to be resilient, they have to be able to solve problem. Basically, they have to be an entrepreneur, and it's not easy being an entrepreneur. And for me, I wouldn't take just ideas. For me, I don't know about other angels, but I wouldn't want just ideas. So usually I would already want to see some kind of traction on the application, if it's an application. And it should also start as a problem solving application or product. And the way I see it, the most important is that this entrepreneur or this founder is willing to listen. They're coachable. That's really important for me. And at the end of the day, yeah, I have to see whether they are really an entrepreneur. So basically, I do invest on the people itself, because I believe a product can change anytime. They can pivot and turn into another product. And when I mentor, I usually also guide them, what is the best way to run the company, or I give them guidance on how to actually monetize. So monetization is definitely important. Business model is also important for me. And so a lot of times, a lot of people think that you can just come to an investor with an idea. Well, in my case, if they come to me with an idea, I just said no, because for me, ideas are just ideas. I mean, like, unless you can execute it, I don't think it's worth to invest yet. That's how I see it.
I have this, Shinta, this question to be close to your heart, because Jonathan Aditya, I'm not sure which country is he from.
He's probably from Indonesia with his name.
Yeah.
Like that.
Okay. So you saw the question that he's asking. I have a digital media company in esports, tech, lifestyle categories by bootstrapping method, and they already have business model And should they be looking for VC or just go with bootstrapping by increase their sales from their business models?
Well, as long as, so if I were them, I would make sure that I have proof that I can monetize first. Once you can monetize, you can talk to venture capital. And, you know, that means like you're proving that your business model is working. That's what I would give advice to.
Okay, I mean, to the rest of the plenary, you will get to support Jonathan shortly, okay? But before Shinta goes, because she has to leave by 3 o'clock, I have just more questions before you hop away. You know, because earlier you mentioned about like you look at some of the conditions, it's like you look at the people that's running the business, you look at the business model in terms of how they monetize. Is there, you know, personally, do you have any investment strategy?
Yeah, investment strategy, like I said, is basically very easy for me. It's like, okay, if I want to invest, I make sure I like the founders, that's one. And then I make sure they have a team, because I think team is really important. So they cannot be just by themselves running this company. So I want to see at least a CTO, probably like a CMO helping the CEO. And for me, a team is really important, because I think that's when you see, you can imagine whether this startup is going to run for a while, because you have to see the, how do you call it, the chemistry between the founders itself as well. And I think what makes a good investor is basically having a good deal flow. The strategy, make sure you have a good deal flow. So the way that how can we get the access of the best founders and companies is one way that, that's why we created the startupindonesia.co platforms. That's a way for us to find deal flows, not only for me personally, but also for the other angels or the other venture capitals. And I think it's really important to be able to vet good companies or good founders, and that's one way to do it, is like through our platform actually. And we've been running that speed dating with the venture capitals, and we had very good feedback. This is going to be our third speed dating next week actually, and we're having 9 venture capitals joining the speed dating, because they've been they're quite happy the way we curate the startups. And actually 42% of the startup that we curated came from outside of Jakarta. So that's also great. That means we're doing our mission of, making equal access for everyone. And actually from that number, like half actually being called second round to talk to the venture capital. So that means we're doing a great curating process. Yeah.
And maybe the gentleman, Jonathan, can talk to Shinta later on.
Yes.
She's the mentor for eSport. I'm sure you guys can pick it up. But before you go, Shinta, just one very relevant question. Like, in your opinion, with the current funding availability in your country, where do you see the possibility of ASEAN Digital Fund towards digital literacy and digital prosperity? I mean, I'm asking a few questions ahead since you're leaving, while I can set some with my plenary later on.
Yeah, hopefully we can work together in setting that digital fund, because I think that's quite needed, when we want to be stronger and bigger as, one entity as ASEAN. I mean, that's great, we would love to see, even Indonesian companies going outside of Indonesia and vice versa, right? And we can help each other, and definitely doing a fund together could be a great way to start it. And we can start something that maybe along the way of like a crowdfunding, maybe in the beginning, to make it just easier for everybody, because I don't know how easy to crowdfund for investors that want to actually, at the end of the day, invest in different countries in ASEAN. So I think it's going to be a bit tough, but it's not that I'm saying it's impossible. So maybe we can create some kind of process. How do we curate the startups that can, that can actually get the funding at the end of the day? And I think it's also just make something that is still, easy to do. Like, I think you mentioned also the other day, it's like crowdfunding, right? That could be a great start, I think, because, we want to see the appetite first from other people.
Okay, thank you so much. And stay on as long as you can.
Thank you.
And we would love to touch base again with you maybe after this whole live chat. So
yes.
Allow me to bring the question back to Samrat before I get on to the rest speaker. Yep, thank you, Shinta.
Thank you.
As long as you can.
Yes, right. I will.
Yeah, so Samrat,
yes.
like when you were working on this whole CIC setup, how do you, for you, because you are the enroller, you bring the people, you mentioned about you have 300 individual funds. Are they like putting the money, putting the funds with CIC, or they make a declaration that they have, this amount of funds for you to come to? How does that work in that case?
No, they just put the fund to CIC. So okay. They just buy the fund unit trust. So we issue the fund unit trust and then they buy.
Okay.
Yeah.
And when they buy the unit trust, that means to say they count on CIC to do the investment. Am I right?
Correct.
Ah, that's so nice. Do you have, maybe I should start to ask you this question, like, what are the good investment and what are the bad investment that you have in your portfolio, and how do you classify good and how do you classify bad? And when you classify good, does the investor say, no, it's not good enough? So how do you manage all this?
Normally we have our investment committee to decide on every investment. So I cannot say good or bad investment. All investment are good because we already decided to invest. But along the way of the investment, we have the challenge that we face with the entrepreneur. And also even the exit, some company we exit with 3-time cashback multiple. Some company just only 1.5. So I think all of them are good. All of them are good. All of our portfolio are good. But working with the entrepreneur is challenging. As I remember, one of our investee company, the entrepreneur, they have the group of people, they have a really great team, but what they use is very aggressive strategy that we cannot jump in to support them quickly and on time. So that's why they grow aggressively without building a strong foundation. This is another challenge for us. We cannot treat them as the bad investment, but we find the way to support them in order to solve the problem. So now we are jumping and work with the management team quite active. So because normally when we invest, we have the one board seat, and then we just direct the strategy. But for that portfolio, we are not just the board of director. We also involved with the management team to reorganize and also to review the strategy and also to provide the new strategy direction. And now it becomes a very good potential company. And they have potential to leverage to be the e-commerce for the electronic product in Cambodia. So we also supporting in strategy and work very close with the company. And yes, I think so far so good. Not facing with the bad investment yet because we already exit some company already, and still working with the entrepreneur. I can say that I do agree with Sinta that we focus on people. Even we invest in the SME, not the startup, but people is really important. So we look into three angles: people, business model, and market when we do the analysis at the final vision stage. Yes, and I think regarding a little bit more on the investment strategy, I think we do the same thing. Like we have the product like debt equity, we have the focus industry. But our strategy is we invest from profitable business to startup, but not the ID state.
Wow. Okay.
In order to build trust, we allocate our money to invest into the profitable business first. So that's why we start from SME. That they can generate profit and also they can generate a dividend for our fund, so that we can distribute the dividend to our investor in order to build trust. I think this is one of the main strategy that we play in our investment strategy.
All right. Thank you, Samrat. Kunbi, I think this part.
I think I cannot hear you, Hong Sen.
Yeah, I cannot hear you.
Yeah, so sorry. I didn't unmute myself. Okay, so Dee, since Samrat talked so much about the angle of because like the question that I was posting about like what is good and what is bad, you run a fund, you run your own fund, and is every of the investment, because for Samrat they have a committee that looked at what to invest. They even have a take a board seat. They even participate in maybe even the management team. So when you are running the fund, what are the kind of condition and criteria does it apply for you? And also, do you have good fund? Do you have good investment? Do you have bad investment? And how do you handle those situations?
Okay. Actually, our investment strategy, we are not angel investment, so then we not invest in startup. That is the first criteria, because angel investment like high risk, high return, but we invest in brownfield business, like they have been operate their business more than 3 years, or maybe that business is already over 10 or 20 years, but we invest in digital transformation. We invest in transform those typical or traditional business into digital platform. So this is a kind of investment criteria, because we have to know that the team can do their job. The team know what their business is. So then they have to have like experience in their own operation. That is the second criteria. But what I want to share you is about the process, how we invest. We have 6 process. Start from we have to discover that business. Discovery is like some people say it's due diligence, but we do more than due diligence. We discovery total the whole industry. Like we have to understand industry, we have to understand market and trend of that industry, and also have to analyze the competitor and pain point. Then until we find the solution to fit the pain point that this industry have. Along the way, that we do the discovering process, we do brainstorming, because once we discover this kind of information, we have to talk to stakeholder. Stakeholder, this means is not only the board of director of that business, but people, their staff, their the team who been setting up the business, or their main client, their main customer or supplier. So once we do discovering, along the way we do brainstorming. After we gathering all information, so then we do the strategy. We do the whole total business strategy, start from like corporate strategy, people strategy, finance, customer strategy, until operation strategy, before we putting the fund in. So putting the fund in is the fourth stage. After we put the fund in, so then we know invest that business. So then we put the fund, many kind of fund in that business or that project. After that, we do the training, because we have to make sure that all the stakeholders know where we are going. We already designed the business strategy, right? So we have to make the whole team understand where we are going to go. Where is the, what is the our mission? What is our priority to do this business together? After we do the training, so then we do execute. So we the investment process we classify into two stages: pre-investment and then post-investment. So this is our investment strategy that Hong Sin asked me.
See, I learned a lot from you. Just this short introduction of what you do in terms of the processes that you do, more than curation, more than due diligence. You know, which to some extent I think is quite interesting, that you give the money first before you do the training now, right? So I think it's good. Okay, whoever that's listening in, make sure you check out with Kun Panit or Miss B, you know. And of course, you have the option to go after Samrat as well, or even Shinta as the angel investors. But Aloysius, coming to you, you are the buy and sell man. When talking about investment strategy, you are basically, do you get involved in terms of investment strategy, or do you know of the people who invested in your business has any means of strategy when they were thinking about investing in your companies? Aloysius?
So when someone invests in your company, or when you're looking at investing into somebody's company, there are certain criteria normally that you have to evaluate before you even take a look at the company. So, for example, right now, on the tech scene, on the cyber scene, what is exciting are all the deep tech kind of companies that offers you things like, on the financial side, blockchain, to IoT solutions, and of course, there's also AI. So the first round of elimination is to see whether, are you in the space or not. Then subsequently, you look at your portfolio, what is missing. For example, you don't just invest because they're in deep tech, but then you look at your own investment portfolio, and you look at, creating a perfect fit of the kind of investee companies that you have that will be able to value add each other in your holdings. So normally, one of the benefit of joining a VC is that in the VC, there are also other investee companies. And the investee companies normally will have some kind of supply chain relationship with each other, such that, you know, to the VC, they will see that it's actually conducive for them to invest in companies that are able to build this supply chain internally, such that, you know, there will be internal billing between the companies that you have invested in. So you don't just invest in the companies that stand alone by itself and that is an outlier from your other investees. That is pretty much very high risk. So the strategy normally goes like that you know, you could build an entire ecosystem using all the investees that you have on hand, such that at the very minimum least, you will be seeing some kind of deal flow between them, and that you can add value by having the invoice flow down the supply chain in this manner. So normally when you do investment, you don't invest out of your comfort zone. So you'll be looking, first of all, you know, whether you understand the business or not in the first place. Then based on the risk appetite that you have set for your for your fund, what is the level of risk appetite that you have set, and are you willing to you know, invest in this company? A lot got to deal with your own personal risk assessment as well. So so before you talk about, you know, whether you have a strategy or not, you'll be looking at, you know, whether it fit the criteria of the objectives of your fund, whether this is what you want to invest in, to your risk appetite, and whether you form the investees could form an ecosystem that is self-sustaining within yourselves. Then you talk about a strategy that perhaps on a very macro level and a fund level, you'll be looking at each company that is going to offer you a part of the total strategy of your VC. So I think that is very common when you talk about VCs, or even companies that invest in other companies. So whether you are a private equity fund or you are a sovereign fund, a government fund, you probably be looking at all these things. And if your risk appetite is so much smaller, you are more risk averse, you will start by maybe looking at companies that are much cleaner, such that, you know, when you do your due diligence, you know, you can actually have a very good idea, you know, what you know, are you buying versus buying a company that's old, like 10, 20, or even 30 years, like what B has mentioned, Kun B has mentioned. For companies that are, you know, have a long 10, 20, 15, 30 years kind of history, sometimes the due diligence is very difficult because you're looking at what kind of deals have been cut that may be detrimental to you if you invest in it, because there could be some hidden baggages that you do not know. So, you know, so I'm just offering a different side of perspective. When people invest, they definitely, when you do the due diligence, they're going to be looking at a very clean investees, that, you know, you don't buy things that you do not know or comes with it. And that is the kind of risk that register that you're going to have in your VCs, that you need to evaluate even before you start the whole deal process. Honestly, what do you?
Thank you, Aloysius. I think you have already started touching on the risk appetite, the risk limitation, or how people are looking at risk. As we have like only about 15 minutes more to go, I really wanted to get onto the subject, hearing from B, Aloysius, Samrat, about this whole conversation that ASEAN CIO is looking to establish a ASEAN digital fund in light to support, to serve this whole digital transformation across ASEAN needs, and I'd like to say specifically the needs to some of the emerging countries. And even the developed countries, there are areas that, government are just missing out. But we know there is this whole huge potential. And it's also on the conversation that, obviously the needs are valid. So coming on the conversation on ASEAN Digital Fund, and we basically would like to focus on the conversation of, in your opinion, all right, with all, it's just like what I've asked Shinta earlier, right? In your own opinion, with current funding availability in the country, where do you see possibilities for ASEAN Digital Fund towards the conversation very specifically for digital literacy and digital prosperity? In other terms, some of the people may be talking about digital economy, but I think that's super big. But when we talk about digital literacy, digital prosperity, very specifically, how possibly ASEAN Digital Fund can support, or possible for this ASEAN Digital Fund to be available. Yeah. So it probably start with Aloysius, you, and then we can move on to the rest.
Right. From, I think, most in most situations, it's never enough VCs to go around to the number of startups that require funds. Okay, so there's always a lot of startups, for example, in the valley, but there's always a shortage of funds. So a lot of good ideas, a lot of good companies actually go to waste because they couldn't gain access to funds. So even that they are already various kinds of funding mechanisms in the different countries in ASEAN, I still think that the digital fund that ACIOA is going to offer is still going to be very relevant to ASEAN and ASEAN companies that are in need of some funding. So it's never enough. But having said that, the digital funds that ACIOA is going to set up will have a very tough job to manage your focus, given that your objective of funding is very huge at ASEAN level. Basically, you're not looking at something that is a very tight and narrow scope, like for example, cybersecurity, cloud computing, or AI, but you're looking at anything that come from ASEAN region. So that means that it is definitely going to be very difficult to execute and manage this fund. So you have to rely on a lot of advisors that sits on advisory board that specializes in certain industry verticals, and you're going to also rely on various kind of mentors that you can find that will be able to help to mentor those companies that you have funded, and to the extent that regularly you could actually not only chaperone these people but also measure whether are they effective in executing the agreed upon strategy that you have agreed with them on how you're going to use the money moving forward. So so when you start this digital fund, there's also the other aspects on who are the ones that are going to invest in the fund. Okay, so these people that comes in to invest in the fund, are these going to be private entities, or are these going to be also from the universities or from the government? So when you have these different parties, you also have represent different levels of risk appetite of investors, and then there's also the different kind of returns they are expecting from them. And of course, there will be also very selective on how they're going to disperse the fund, who are the targeted audience that they want to make the fund accessible, despite the fact that it's for ASEAN. So, all in all, I think the digital fund that ACIOA is going to offer will be something that is still going to be useful and of value to the industry. And probably the only thing is probably at the start, you probably have to narrow on your scope of what you're going to fund in. Given the fact that it's CIOA, meaning that probably you're going to focus on digital and cyber kind of funding, that sort of narrow the scope tremendously to anything that do with digital and cyber. But having said that, that is still a very big so-called scope that you have to manage, and you have to get the various experts that not only are the experts in their area of specialty, but also experts in the market that you're going to operate as well. Okay, because understanding the Singapore market doesn't mean you understand the Thai market, and the advantage that you can offer is from an ASEAN level, you have access to the people that know, just like you have access to people that are able to join this live chat today. So that's my perspective, that's my angle, Hong Seng, and probably I will say that it will be good for the fund. Lastly, I'd like to also point out that it will be good for this digital fund to be able to connect with the other funds, especially that belongs to the nation state within ASEAN, or maybe even to universities accelerator program as well, because that will be a natural so-called supply to your fund because these people having accessed the accelerator funds in the university, they are already proven and checked by another entity to have matched certain criteria. So that sort of reduce your risk as well.
Okay, thank you so much, Aloysius. That is definitely ear-opening, not just eye-opening. And Samrat, I would also really very much like to hear from you, because you've been working a lot with the SMEs in Cambodia, and being able to issue trust units, and being able to offer options to the SMEs. If this ASEAN Digital Fund is being established, in your opinion, with your current funding availability in your country, how do you see this ASEAN Digital Fund?
Okay, I think more option is good because we can have because the money is not enough. If you can say in the entrepreneur space, money is not enough for them. So that's why if we can have more option is good. And I do agree with Aloysius. It's really difficult to execute. So when you come to the state to execute the Asian Digital Fund, better you start from small thing. I don't know what is a small thing, because a different country have a different appetite, have a different situation. So you have to start with small thing, and look for the local partner that understand well the local situation, and try to adapt the digital Asian Digital Fund to the local market. And I think the level of technology adoption in different countries is different. What else? In Cambodia itself, crowdfunding license is here now, because Stock and Exchange Commission of Cambodia they released a regulation on crowdfunding, but it's not workable yet, because no player in the market. Why no player in the market? Because no demand and supply yet. Why no demand and supply? Because investor don't know what is that, And the entrepreneur, I think the startup, they are quite familiar with the term, but most of the SME, they are like blind in the technology, and especially, and if you talk about the crowdfunding, what is that? So yes, so still, I think it's good that you provide the option, provide more option to the fund, and we are here that if you want to learn more about how to strategize what is a digital fund can work in Cambodia, we also can support.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Samrat. Like, great to know also in terms of the opinion of Cambodia. Indeed, it is true that money is never enough, right? The more the barrier. That's a common statement that everyone already speaks about. But of course, you know, for ASEAN CIO to even start thinking about creating a digital fund, obviously, Aloysius' input is definitely valid. That it is a big subject when we say ASEAN Digital Fund, supporting digital literacy towards digital prosperity. I mean, this is huge, but we then have to scale down and look at where are the interests and what are the priorities in the different countries. And obviously, we are not looking at reinventing what, the great work that has already been done by the in-country men. So very importantly is we probably would take some time to gather, requirement, to gather the opinion, after this live chat, we will still be having more conversation with each and different countries before we start actually the enrollment. But definitely for sure is that, we will emphasize a lot on the declaration of the transparency, the accountability, before we even want to set anything up. And even for the conversation for like, the funding, ASEAN CIO is the founding member. But will we be the one and only one that runs the fund? No, definitely not. So to that said, we would be, looking at the right partner to be a part of this whole establishment of this whole ASEAN Digital Fund. So let me bring on B before I close the session. I definitely like to hear her opinion because Thailand generally is very active in terms of funding, looking at funding, investing in money, investing in projects. And of course, there is a lot of conversation that Thai people invest out of Thailand. So B, your call.
Actually, talk about ASEAN. Right now, power from the whole world is bringing back to the East and then we are ASEAN people, we can say that within this COVID crisis, ASEAN still look better than other areas in the world, right? So then talk about ASEAN itself. Actually, we are quite significant people of this period. So talk about digital fund. Actually, it's not like invest in startup. Like I understand, but I think it's very challenging how to develop the transparency mechanism with the collaboration model to make digital fund go live and to be the real mechanism to drive the development in ASEAN country. It's not small thing, it's big thing. And then I think if we set up, if we collaborate and set up this digital fund and try to develop the mechanism together, I think it can help, really help impact development in like our ASEAN country, not only like Thailand or not only like Singapore, but we are not talking about the Bangkok metropolitan, but we are talking about the whole country, which is not like SME gang up together cannot make it happen. If we have no like big guy or have no like government people, so then I think the fund is like that collaborate all the power together to help make this, digital literacy in our ASEAN country.
Okay, so I really like to thank the plenary speakers for supporting this whole conversation. We can go on when we talk about money. It's just like my last session. We can go on when we start to talk about ASEAN digital women. In fact, every subject that we are covering, we always find that we have not enough time to cover all the topics that we wanted to cover. But what is very, very important is that ASEAN CIO live chat doesn't end with a live chat. In fact, at the end of the live chat, we pick up everything, gather all the feedback, and then starts to work on the action item. So rest assured that Samrat, B, even Shinta, who is already offline, but she can see the replay, Aloysius, or even the other rest of the countries that we have yet to bring them on for this live chat on ASEAN Digital Fund. We have a lot to do. And there are already interested people because they are so passionate about developing ASEAN, and in alignment to also what B has been repeatedly mentioning, impact investing and towards a betterment of ASEAN. So this whole entire conversation is really up to your imagination on what is possible. Everyone is telling me it's crazy, it's difficult, it's unlikely. Yeah, Hong Sin is always crazy. So, I'm basically having my final conversation with, I'm gathering this input from all of you, and I'm open to hear more from everybody. Let's get on, and I'll keep every one of you posted. And should you be following ASEAN CIO live chat, or should you be following ASEAN CIO social media, you will get all those updates. So today's session has been recorded and will be posted on ASEAN CIO YouTube channel, as well as the Facebook page. So should you like to see a replay, by all means, do note that the upcoming live chat focuses very much on, again, on the hot subject on cybersecurity and the criticality on responding when you are being attacked or when you're being hacked. So let us, because this is like our third last live chat, next week will be the second last, and the final one will be towards end of July, which covers on green community, on climate assets, climate change. So we welcome any input through live chat at acioa.com. It is our honor to have all of you to join us today. With deep gratitude, Khop Kun Ka, and thank you very, very much.